Masterson, they'll talk about their books, and maybe everyone will get some good hints. Thank you.
We agreed that I'm going to begin. And I'm going to stand up because I'm happier standing up and moving around. We hope that maybe our experiences will motivate some of you to give up the month of November, do everything else, and write a book. But even if you
going on in November at all, there's
no
holidays.
No, I mean, do your Christmas shopping in October and write in November. So I'm going to take about 15 minutes to read from my book, The Dog That Managed Hedge Funds, and talk just a little bit about what the process was of writing it. And then I'm going to turn it over to Danielle because she's doing a much more sensible approach. And she'll tell you about it. And of course, then you will have the opportunity to tune in. Talk about whatever you want to talk about. Ask whatever questions you want to ask. Well, The Dog That Managed Hedge Funds, I'll tell you very briefly what the plot is. Harrison was a terrible, terrible character. He was a hedge funds manager, and he was corrupt and wretched, and he was indicted and sent to prison where he died of a heart attack. And he woke up as a big black dog. Now, the other character in the story is named Sheila Thibodeau, and she is really a heartbreak kid. She just could never financially make it. She had a number of dead-end jobs, and finally she got a job she really liked as a professional dog walker. Didn't make a lot of money, but she liked the job, and then she branched out into animal communication. So that's really all you need to know for this. So life was rolling along. I had my dog walking clients. More people were calling me to do animal translations, but I was still pulling hard at the ends to make them meet. And sometimes no amount of tugging brought them together. At the end of each month, the checkbook was depressingly low, and I was relying on my crab fried rice with egg and canned corn dish for sustenance. It all changed on a Wednesday afternoon. Changed with a phone call. Of course, when you get a phone call like that, you don't know things are changing, so I went ahead, picked up the phone, and said, "Hello." "Alice Malone," she said without preamble. "You the animal communicator? Have I got that right?" "Yes, this is Sheila." "Well, I got this dog. Got him from the pound. I didn't go to the pound looking for him, you understand. I was there to get a cat. The dog's the last thing I wanted and the last thing I needed. Especially this dog. He's a real son of a bitch, this one." "Well, what can I do for you, Miss Malone?" "Mrs. Alice, just Alice." "So what would you like to find out about your dog, Alice?" At the other end of the phone, I heard a noise that sounded like a grunt. Alice seemed to be thinking. "That's for you to figure out, I guess," she concluded. "See if you can figure out why he's such an ornery son of a bitch. Find out what's wrong with him." "He sulks." "Yeah, that's what he does, sulks. Just sits in a corner and sulks." I swear I don't know what got into me that day in the pound, but I guess it must have been his eyes. His eyes? Yeah, his eyes. They reminded me of this rotten cousin of mine. They have the same eyes. I was just going to ask Alice why she'd adopted the dog if he'd reminded her of her rotten cousin when she changed the subject. Got right to the heart of the matter. "Listen, how much do you charge for one of your psychic readings? My neighbor, Mrs. Lucent, says you're real good. Says you cured her chihuahua just by asking it what it wanted to eat. Mrs. Lucent changed the damn food and the dog's hair stopped falling out. I'd like to know what's going on with this dog I got, but I'm not made of money, you know. It's worth something to me to get the answer, but there's a limit, you know." I told Alice that my rate for a single session was $75 and that this included at least one conversation with the animal and a follow-up telephone consultation with the owner. I had some trouble getting Alice to understand and to accept the notion that the communication would not be on site. Like through the air, she asked. She sounded extremely dubious. Think of it like television, I told her. Like how television comes into your house on special airwaves. You can't see them, but they transmit information. I was making this part up. I have no idea how television signals, or even electricity for that matter, come leaking out of those wall receptacles and start shooting their energy into appliances. There was a silence. Alice seemed to be absorbing this concept. Oh, she said. Okay. There was still a skeptical tone in her voice. Like, what do I gotta do? She wanted to know. How do we get started and all? Now I was in my element. We start, I said, when you send me a photograph of the dog. I don't have a picture of him. Well, can you take one? I really need to have a photo. I guess I could ask my sister. She's got a camera. Of course, I won't see her till a week from Thursday. She stops by after she gets her hair done. Thursday's fine, I said. Also supply me with his name, his breed, and his age as close as you can. Guess if you aren't sure, and if you have any specific questions or issues you'd like me to take up with the dog, you can send those as well. But I really don't need or want too much information. What's the dog's name, by the way? Harrison. Like I said, he reminded me of my rotten cousin, so I named him Harrison. Harrison was your cousin? I asked. I admit it was kind of a naive question. Alice apparently thought so too. Duh, she said, then added more kindly, you got that right anyway. Okay, Alice, I said, when you get the picture, scan it and email it to me along with the answers to those questions we talked about, and then I'll count. Hold on a second there, Alice said. I don't do email. I don't have a computer. So we squared away a few more details, like my mailing address, so Alice could send the information with a postage stamp. And I wrote down her phone number so I could call her and report after my interview with Harrison. Then we hung up the phones. Now I need to say that Harrison is just a terrible creature. He's mean, and he's crude, and I am not responsible for what he sounds like. I am only the reporter. To fill the time, I tried calling Harrison again. I heard the snarl again, but at least I'd roused a response. What do you want? Well, Harrison, I began in this very proper tone, I had hoped for the chance to speak with you at Alice Malone's request. She is very concerned about you, and she has some questions that she would like you to answer. Freaking Alice. I beg your pardon? Freaking Alice, you heard me, the dog repeated. What the Christ does she want to know, and what does she want to know it for? I have to say, I was taken aback by his tone and language. Well, that doesn't sound very nice, Harrison, I chided. I think you could show a little gratitude toward Alice. After all, she rescued you from the shelter and she's given you a home, and I have to say I don't appreciate your language. I don't appreciate your language, the dog mimicked. Actually, he did a pretty good imitation of my prissy statement. Silence. Harrison? The silence lengthened. Shit, I thought. Now I've blown it. And just when I had this guy finally beginning to talk, then I heard a short bark that sounded something like a laugh. Your language isn't so fancy either, kid, Harrison said. Who's so high and mighty now? So, okay, what is it that old Alice is so hot to know? Well, I began. Alice wants to know more about you, about your background and all, and she wants to know if you're happy and if there's anything you need. Oh my, yes. Happy? Just goddamn delighted. Living with Alice would be anybody's dream date, the dog said sarcastically. Then he shifted out of that pseudo-sweet tone and into the snarl that was becoming familiar. Of course I'm not happy. I'm mad as hell. Furious. I wake up all of a sudden and I'm a dog. What? I was confused. I don't think I got that. Of course you're a dog. In case you're a dog, Harrison mimicked, I am not a dog. Or at least I wasn't until that morning I woke up in the pound and found out I had 4 paws and a tail. Harrison, Let me get this straight. You are a dog now, but you weren't a dog before. Before what? Before the heart attack. The last thing I remember, the very last thing, was this incredible pain spreading through my chest and down my arms, and then blackness. Nothing. Zilch. Then, when I woke up, I was in a cage. A cage in a dog pound or animal shelter or whatever the hell nicey politically correct word they have for displaced animals in prison. Cement floors, bars, wardens walking up and down and bringing you food and water once a day in metal pans. I shuddered. And there I was, Harrison continued. All of a sudden, I'm a goddamn dog and I'm sitting sideways in this cage licking my own ass with my tongue. My God, do you know how revolted I was about that? I was astounded. All the dogs and cats and horses I've had for clients, and not one of them ever alluded to a former life, especially not one as a human. Later, I asked my mentor, Marie, about this, and I asked very carefully, as you might imagine, and she'd never heard this claim either. I decided I'd talk with Harrison a few more times before I called Alice with my report. All I knew about the dog at this point was that he had been, or believed he had been, a human being in a former life. Oh, brother, why does the lunatic fringe always end up with me? And I thought the insurance office was bad. The dog that managed hedge funds is a one-off. It doesn't tuck neatly into a genre. I found out after I wrote the thing. Danielle knows a lot about genres, and if you want to know anything about them, she's your man. Also, the way I wrote this book was probably a little unusual. I said that I would participate in NaNoWriMo, but I didn't know what I was going to write about. And I stamped around grumbling about it, and I was grumbling one night and went to bed, and I woke up the next morning grumbling, and I said, well, you can't teach an old dog new tricks. And I was talking about myself. But I had written the last line of the book. Good. Then all I had to do was figure out the characters and the plot and go back and fill in the blanks up until the last sentence, which I did. And because you can't teach an old dog new tricks, I figured that one of the characters had to be a dog, so that was Harrison. And then he needed someone to play against. And then what I did, I took 50,000, which is the number of words you're supposed to have for a NaNoWriMo book, and I divided it by 8, which meant that the first week I had to write 2 8s, and the second week another 2 8s, I would be halfway done, and so on. And you might ask, why didn't I just divide it in quarters? Because that seemed like too many words for me to bite off. So I did that, and I got to November 30th, and I'm going to confess this is not 500 words. It is 5,000 words. It is 49,428. And I could have written the other words, but I didn't feel like it. Okay, now here's the one who does it right.
No, you did it right. Nancy's right. NaNoWriMo is a national novel writing project that is global, and people do it all across the world, and they gather online and they gather in libraries. And when I started volunteering here at the Flint Memorial Library, I talked to Helena, our director, about NaNoWriMo, and we decided that I would spearhead the movement for North Reading. And thankfully Nancy grumbled through it with me. We were the only 2, but that's okay. We hope we have more this year. You're welcome to join us. We do have dates for writing sessions here at the library that we will post, and I can give those to people later. But Nancy actually did a really great thing with her plotting. She plotted backwards. I did something totally different. I went into NaNoWriMo knowing that I wanted to write a romance novel. And it was a joke. And it was a friend of mine, and we had gone back and forth saying we were going to write romance novels because we could write them better than anyone else could. And I wrote one. And so we went ahead in November And we wrote, actually I did it, my friend did not. She is still working on that book. We talk about it all the time. I'm trying to get her to finish it, but she hasn't yet. But I went ahead and I did go ahead and write. It was tentatively titled Undercovers, and it is now living in my iPad. And it has gone out to agents, and it has been rejected. So we're going to rework it, and we're going to see what we can do with it. But let me talk a little bit about how I went about it, because I did go about it a little differently than Nancy. I did decide that I was going to write a romance novel, so I had my genre set, and I knew exactly what I needed to do. For me, I need to create characters before I can do anything else. So I created 2 characters, and I got to know them in my mind first. And then I went ahead, that was October, I got to know my characters. And then hit November 1st and I realized, ooh, I'm supposed to be writing, and I didn't have a plot. But I had 2 people in mind, so I was good with that. And I think I started writing it probably on November 3rd. And I didn't, I had a calendar with, I separated it by day, and I had how many words I was supposed to write by day, and it winds up being about 1,300 words or so. And I didn't do that. What wound up happening was work got in the way, you know, pesky Thanksgiving, things like that, holidays, things that come up and you don't have a chance to write every day. And I wound up sitting in my dining room with my hood up. I had a little hooded sweatshirt, my headphones on, and I would write on the weekends for about 10 hours. About 10. And write all day on Saturday, all day on Sunday. And that was how my 50,000 words came about. In December, I let it sit in December. In January, I probably added another 3,000 or 4,000 words. And then I started sending it out to agents in the spring. But what I'm going to read to you tonight is actually a second book that I'm working on. When the first one didn't quite work out, it was finished and I think it's good, but it needs a little bit of work. I decided I was going to start a second project. And some of you who either follow me on Facebook or read North Reading or Woburn Patch have seen the blogs about my new romance novel that I'm writing, and it's called Pink Diamonds. And it is in the running right now for a contest, and you all can vote for it if you choose. I have business cards up here with a website where you can go to the website and it'll point you in the direction. You can vote for it. If you vote for me, I might get into the second round. And if I get into the second round, I might win, and then I'd win a publishing contract. That would be really exciting because that's the goal. But what's happening with Pink Diamonds is almost exactly what happened with NaNoWriMo. I found out about the contest a little bit too late and gave myself about 6 weeks to write it. It's still not done yet, but I do have some that I can read to you from today. Some of you have already read the first chapter, so I didn't want to bore those people. So we're going to pick it up a little bit in the middle, and we're going to pick it up in the second chapter. And a little bit of background, my 2 characters are Officer Jamie Sullivan. He's a young police officer. He lives in the city of Rosemont. And in the city of Rosemont is a fairly wealthy neighborhood, and a socialite lives there, and her name is Marlena Brady. Are there any Days of Our Lives fans out there? The name is from Days of Our Lives when I was a little girl. Yes, so very
many years ago.
Many years ago. Marlena Brady dates back to many, many years ago, but I was a little girl and that was my favorite character, and I decided to give a little tip of the hat to my favorite character as a child. But Marlena is a socialite. She is an heiress. She's inherited this $1 million company, and she keeps running into this police officer, and she's being stalked. And with all her money, her manager, because she needs a business manager, of course, has decided to basically purchase this police officer for 2 weeks. And he's going to investigate the case and keep her stalker away from her. So they have met a couple of times, and this is day 2 that they're together. Even though he worked the day shift at the police department, Jamie Sullivan hated the mornings. He dragged himself out of bed at 7, knowing a quick shower and a brush of the hair would make him presentable enough for this stupid charity breakfast. Who holds a meeting at breakfast, he thought grumpily, and then answered himself, well, the police do. Roll call's always held at 7:30. So a more forgiving Jamie padded downstairs, his sneaker in his hands, 20 minutes later. His polo shirt was a deep blue, setting off his eyes, and he'd grabbed a different pair of jeans than the ones he wore yesterday, ones without rips on the bottom, figuring it would be better for the rich ladies to not think he himself was a charity case. Marlena was in the hallway waiting for him. Her hair was pulled back into a fancy chignon at the nape of her neck, or at least he thought that's what it was called. A pair of diamond studs sparkled from each earlobe. Her dress was a plain dark purple tank top with a knee-length skirt, and she was wearing heels, hot pink heels. You wearing jeans? She asked. Yes, Jamie answered, knowing it had to have been the wrong answer based on Marlena's outfit. It's all I have. Or would you rather I wear the police uniform? I'd almost rather the uniform, she said, her voice clipped. This is an important breakfast. He stared at her. The girl seemed serious. Important for you, he said, but this is just a security job for me. I think it'll be okay if your bodyguard wears jeans. She pursed her lips. Fine, get in the car. Mine or yours? Mine, we can't take that pickup truck. I asked Marcello to park it in the garage so no one would see it in our driveway, but he couldn't find your keys. That's because I keep my keys with me, like a normal person, he said. And what is wrong with my truck? It's old, it's battered, and it looks like it belongs to a teenager. There's the Rosemont woman he'd been expecting all along, he thought, annoyed. He's saying that because Rosemont's very rich. That's why this comes up. Listen, if my truck and my jeans are going to be a problem, maybe we need to get you a new bodyguard. It's fine, Jamie, she said, sighing. We'll settle these things later. Here are the keys. You can drive. Great. Now I can add chauffeur to my list of skills. She rolled her eyes and pushed him toward the door. We're almost late, she said. He had to admit the silver Mercedes drove like a dream. Barely audible, it cruised over Rosemont streets like a sleek cat. Well, maybe I could get used to chauffeuring, he thought. Marlena seemed on edge in the passenger seat. Is Jamie short for something, she asked. He glanced over. Yeah, why? Well, what's it short for? James. Why? It's just, Jamie sounds so childish. Between the truck and the name, she paused. You know, you're not 17 years old anymore. I'm not trying to be 17 years old, he said sharply. In fact, the only person who has a problem with my truck, my name, or my clothing seems to be you. Oh, whatever, she said dismissively. I'm calling you James when we get to breakfast. What? He shouted. You can't change my name. Well, you can't go by Jamie forever, she snapped. It's a boy's name, and you're a grown man. Use your real name. Are you kidding me? What crawled up your ass this morning anyway? You've been prissy all morning. Excuse me, but nothing has crawled up my ass, she said. If anything, I'm just annoyed that the Rosemont police sent me a cop who can't even realize that he needs to get dressed up for charity breakfast meeting. Listen, lady, I grew up in Patterson. We don't have your stupid charity breakfasts there. We have people who work for a living, and we wear blue collars. Are you insinuating that I don't work for a living? He looked at her crossly. Do you really want me to answer that? I work plenty, she said. I go to tons of these things, and I represent my father's fertilizer company. I've been doing this for years. He's worked hard to build this company up and make it the success it is. I have to keep that going. And while everyone at the office and factories run the day-to-day stuff, I keep up my end of the bargain. It's called image, James, she said, elongating his name. Fine, he said. You work. But that's not what work is where I come from. So pardon me for my ignorance. She sat in the passenger seat, arms folded, her gaze straight ahead on the car in front of her. And the name is Jamie, he added. James, she muttered. They drove the rest of the way in silence. When he pulled up to the front of the parking lot, he told her to stay in the seat. Just watch how adult and well-mannered I can be, he said with a smirk. He opened the door for her with a flourish, smiling widely. See? She stepped out of the car, holding her purse in front of her and smiling tightly. Thank you, James. He sighed. I'm not going to win this one, am I? He asked, his hand on her elbow as they walked toward the door. She smiled up at him brightly, her eyes sparkling. No, you're not, she said. She walked in the door he held open. Oh, and one more thing, she said, looking back at him. You're my boyfriend, not my bodyguard. Got it? He opened his mouth to say something, but she hushed him with a finger to her lips. Just go with it, she said. It'll be better for all of us, trust me. That's the beginning of chapter 2. So Jamie and Marlena will be going through some more adventures together as they figure out this stalker and they try to not kill each other. And that is Pink Diamonds, which is what I'm working on right now. And it's going through the same process. Writing a lot on the weekends, trying to write during the week, but not necessarily getting it done. Like the first one, I created Jamie and Marlena first, and then started going through the plot. I don't think, I had a conflict for the two of them. There's an inner conflict and sort of a wider conflict. And the inner conflict would be just the fact that the two of them cannot, you know, they can't get along, and they're trying to get along because they have this other conflict, which is the stalker. So I had my conflicts in mind, but I didn't necessarily have my plot. So I was already writing chapter 1 and had already started chapter 2 before I really came into mind of exactly what I was going to do. I think I'd probably written about 10,000 words before I even had a plot outline. But I have that now, and now the process is just to get the rest of it written. So that's a little bit on how the two of us did our books, our writing. Nancy was able to publish hers.
Well, I self-published. We took different routes on that, too. And I took the easy approach, the instant gratification. Self-published my book, done a few others that way. So there it is. I'm terrible at marketing my own books, terrible at it. So if anybody wants to buy one, that would help me out. And this is, I didn't put this one on Amazon. It is on Amazon. It's on Kindle, Nook, and ebook, and iBook electronically. But Amazon takes entirely too much money for a book that a small writer puts up. But Danielle is taking a much more professional approach because time is on her side, and also she has a genre.
Yes. Working with the commercial genre is a bit easier to go ahead and try the more traditional route, I guess is what people would call it, of finding an agent and also going ahead publishing. Now what I've done over the last year is query several agents, I think probably 60 or so, and I think I've probably gotten about 50 back that were favorable but not interested. And really, for an agent to be interested, you have to understand they're going to work over 100 hours on your book before they ever make any money. So if they read the first few lines and the first 100 or so words and they're not in love with it, they're just not going to take it. And it took me a while to understand that. At first I took them very personally and I would be all upset, and after a while they feel kind of like mosquito bites. You just shake them off. And you know, I decided when I wasn't getting the response I wanted from the agents that I would then start to look at publishing companies. And like Nancy said, having a genre was easy. All I had to do was look at Harlequin. And Harlequin does accept many new writers. They actually published 12 new writers in total last year, 5 from the contest that I entered. So with that in mind, and with the light at the end of the tunnel that perhaps a publishing company would take me when an agent wouldn't, that's where Pink Diamonds came in, and that's when I started working on it. I also I brought them with me. My family's been nice enough for every birthday and Christmas to buy lots of novel writing books that I've gone through, and actually NaNoWriMo has their own kind of Bible to the whole project, and it's called No Plot, No Problem, and it's a wonderful read, and I actually read it in October before I started writing in November, and it really walks you through. What I've used this time around is this, it's called On Writing Romance, and it's kind of like the romance writing Bible, and tells you all about all the things that you need to do to be published, and have not just an agent look at you, but a publishing company. So there's different resources out there that if you're serious on taking your writing to the next level. I think we both kind of did this on a lark last year and then realized, well, wait a second, we came up with some good stuff, and we were able to, Nancy offered to help me self-publish, and I was stubbornly said, no, I'm going to get an agent. And We're still working on that.
You will.
Yes.
Vote. Vote for her.
Yes.
Vote for her.
Yes.
Wasn't Harry Potter rejected by 3 publishers before it was accepted?
I believe it was. You'll hear stories about all sorts of authors who've been rejected. And Chuck Hogan, who spoke here in the spring, talked to me a lot about that. He's been wonderful about being supportive about this project. And every time I'd get a rejection letter, I'd send him something, say, I got another one. Be like, yeah, you're going to get a few more. Don't worry about it. And but also very encouraging when I've gotten the encouraging ones. So, and he was rejected like 70 or something times before he got, and he of course went on and wrote.
More than you.
That's right. And he's gone on and he wrote The Town and all those great books. So, yeah, you hear that a lot. Mm-hmm.
Anybody here going to pony up for November? How many people?
Okay.
Are you going to try it, Tom?
Yeah.
Okay.
Having failed last year, I think I would.
Well, you know, it isn't a failure.
No.
You can always go
I got
back.
sidetracked.
Sure.
One of the things that's
Do you have your plot?
I kind of do have a plot.
Good. Excellent.
Kind of a cozy mystery idea.
Oh, good.
Play around with it.
Yeah, it's fun. It's fun mostly to write, unless you're wearing a hoodie and are pulling
Writing
a
for 12 hours.
8-hour thing. But it's a trip. You know, other things happen along the way. One of the things that happened was, for me, meeting Danielle, who is, every time we get together, I just marvel. One of the things that Danielle does that authors should do, and I can't, is use social media to promote her book. And she is just a whiz at that. I have a Twitter account. I have a Facebook account. Danielle works them. And that's great.
Thank you. There's a lot of different things you can do. One of the interesting things that actually comes into the writing process that's really cool is the use of Pinterest, which is a photo social media.
Do you want to show them your Pinterest page?
Ooh, I'm on Wi-Fi. I can. What?
I think that's...
Yeah, that's a great idea. I read about this in a Writer's Digest magazine that an author was using Pinterest to come up with clothing and items and things that the characters would have. So for this one, I've already done that. This is, this is, you know, items that they may have had. The shoes from chapter 2 are up there. This would be the model for Jamie. He's over in the corner. So basically, as I write, I go ahead and I find these things online and I pin them to the page. So when I realized Marlena was going to be wearing hot pink heels and she had a lot of money, I went to the Christian Louboutin. Is that how you say it?
I don't have a lot of money.
I don't know. I don't have a lot of money either. And I had her buy $845 shoes. Isn't that amazing? So she also has some really fancy dresses that I found that were equally expensive. But the really cool thing was coming up with the ring. And the reason why the book is called Pink Diamonds is because Marlena's father in the beginning has given her this large pink diamond ring. And what I did was I went online and I went to the Tiffany & Company website and I found this gorgeous $1.2 million ring and thought, wouldn't that be nice to have? So I gave it to Marlena. And so this is her ring.
She's so lucky.
Yes. And but what's neat about having this on the Pinterest board is that as I'm writing, I have a picture of the person I've modeled Jamie after and the person I've modeled Marlena after, and I'm able to look at them as I'm writing. And it's a little trick that a lot of writers use of, sometimes they'll use just people from magazines. I use 2 actors that I happen to like. And it helps you describe them a little bit more when you're actually physically looking at a person. So, and it definitely helped with the ring. I had no idea what to give this girl as a hugely expensive, gorgeous ring, and sure enough, there it is online. But it's also there as a way to promote, like Nancy said, on Facebook and Twitter. I will post something like, oh, writing chapter 3, here's the outfit Marlene is wearing. And people can click on it and see that and are like, oh, okay, so that's kind of what this woman looks like, and this is something that she would wear. It's just a way to kind of bring the reader into the book a little bit, and since I'm writing it right now, it brings them more into the writing process. So yeah, that's actually, it's been a lot of fun. That's fun. You can get distracted doing that. You're writing, you can get a little distracted shopping and finding stuff. I tend to find stuff from Arlena. Jamie's just wearing t-shirts. You know, he's not as much fun. He doesn't have as much money. But it is a really cool way to kind of bring reality. And I had someone say to me, would a ring really cost $1.2 million? And I said, yes, I found it. Go to my Pinterest. It's right there.
I think the marketing tricks, though, that you're using is just super. That's really great.
Yeah. Hopefully it works.
Yeah, I think so. So Danielle, if these folks wanted to start and do NaNoWriMo, what's the process? What do they have to do after they have the quart of blood extracted?
Yes. I would say characters and plot first, and using the month of October to start to think about them. Think about what you might want. What do you want to spend an entire month with? And you will spend many, many hours with these people in this story. So think about your characters and your plot first, and do that in October so that you have an idea. If you can sketch out even a plot outline complete, then you'll be good to go. I think that's kind
what
of
about signing up or something?
Yeah, there's the NaNoWriMo website, and it's nanowrimo.org, and you sign up for an account there, and you put yourself on there, tell people that you're taking part. You can have, I think they're just called writing groups. They also do NaNoWriMo in the summer, and they call them cabins. It's Camp NaNoWriMo, if you crazy enough to do it in the summer too. But the November one is just...
These are virtual camps, I think.
Yes. People are there to kind of help you out, and but I actually use Twitter a lot more than I use the NaNoWriMo site. On Twitter, you can find a lot of people who are also taking part, and they'll kind of help you through the process. They're there when you're writing late at night, and there's almost always someone, because it's a global campaign, so there's almost always someone awake and writing when you are.
I just put my head down and didn't talk to anybody. Yeah.
Nancy, when you were writing, did you have notes, or did you just keep writing?
No, I didn't have notes. Well, maybe in a way I did. When I write anything, and it frankly includes some technical work, I hear the voice. My mother used to worry, but I hear the voice, and sometimes if I'll make notes on something that one of the voices might have said, but I really didn't make too many notes. I knew what I was doing, and also, frankly, as I say, this book is a one-off. I had a plot. It was a simple plot, but if I had just gone plot points, I wouldn't have gotten 5,000 words. So I plugged in little vignettes of, in Sheila's case, for example, when she would be called to communicate with a pig or a horse or a dog, I wrote in a little sub-story. So that padded it out and made it easier to get to 50,000 words. Little side trips.
How many pages is that?
This is, well, 12-point type, but it's 175 pages.
One thing you can do is if you use the Courier font and put it at 12-point, you add, I think it's 25 pages to the end of a double-spaced Courier font document, and that will be how many pages it would be in a standard mass market paperback. So if instead of using Times, use Courier, double-space it, and then at the end, so like Pink Diamonds right now is already in the hundreds for what it would be in a mass market paperback, and it's about 24,000 words right now.
24,000 words, so how many pages?
130, I think.
Really?
Yeah.
Jeez.
hmm Yeah, it's a lot longer than I thought.
Yeah, you're almost there.
That's a way to think about it too.
So
When
you're going to write a different story during the month of November?
I might. I'm not sure. I'm definitely going to
2
take
weeks
part.
ago, it was yes.
Yeah. Now I'm a little more tired than I was then. I'm going to try. I'm definitely going to take part and hopefully finish this year and hopefully do a second story. But if not,
Have you done anything other than just a romance?
not yet. No.
But you know what? If you don't hit 50,000 words, so what? Nobody's going to take anything away from you. They're not going to beat you through the street. So you've got 30,000 words toward a novel that you wouldn't have otherwise. You can finish it off. There's no, there is a prize, if I remember it right. If you are having your words counted up by the NaNoWriMo website and you get to 50,000, they give you a certificate, which you can print off on your own printer with your own ink.
Yes.
And
it says winner next to your name.
And I was deeply moved.
I still have my certificate.
There you have it.
Yes.
Well, I can get to 50,000 words.
I was very excited the day my little winner name popped up. Because what you do is you keep logging in and you'll enter your word count, and once you hit 50,000, it pops up winner. You get a little, your little certificate.
And now
pops
Danielle
up.
has decided she's going to enter this contest for money. And that's a much better goal.
I think so, yeah. Definitely.
Yeah, Judy.
Did it help you coming to the library to write, or was it helpful because you saw each other, or was it just helpful to get out of your own home and try writing in a different environment?
Danielle says yes. For me, no. I am of a generation where extraneous noises like music and things, not while you're doing your homework, dear. So I really like the silence. And I did come to the library with my laptop, and I'm very clumsy on my laptop, and I really didn't get anywhere at all. But Danielle, I came upon her on Saturday. She's sitting in Dunkin' Donuts, writing. And by the way, you must look at this
Yes.
thing.
Or leave,
that
yeah.
she
You have a
has.
keyboard.
You know, it's just great.
Yeah, what I
I'm
like.
so impressed.
Oh, thank
Oh,
you.
I am.
What I like to do is I actually write on my iPad, and the Apple technology is just so incredible that when you write on your iPad and you use a certain program, it will immediately go. It also saves on your laptop and your iPhone if you happen to have Apple products, which over the years I have collected because I felt like they were definitely the best for me for working possibilities. So what I do is I do work on the iPad, and I then will pick up the phone and write a little bit there. I was writing at the gym one day, on the bike, writing some of it, and also writing on the laptop. And I found coming to the library was a big help. I don't have children, but I have 2 dogs, and I have one little dog who loves to sit with me and chew on my fingers. And that makes typing very difficult. So sometimes I would pick her up and put her down, and then sometimes I would pick her up and go to the library because it was just easier to get away than it was to try and write at home. But I do write. I write with music in my headphones. I can write just about anywhere. So I found the library sessions were great. And there was one session, I think there were 3 of us there, and then other sessions when it was just me. And it is fun to have someone with you because you can talk as you're writing, kind of commiserate. But it's also fun to write alone too. I mean, you really both ways work. But we will have those writing sessions again. We're going to have them starting on November 1st. We'll have one at 6:30, and Saturday, November 10th, will be at 1 o'clock. Saturday, November 17th will be 1 o'clock. We can be flexible. We can make that a morning session if people are interested and they'd rather have a morning. And Thursday, November 29th, after Thanksgiving, we'll wrap up the month with one final session, and that will also be at 6:30. and we'll have those posted on the library website, and also my blog, which is on, it's on Woburn Patch because I'm the editor there, but it's also on North Reading Patch as I live here in North Reading. So all of that information will be out there as well. And I think Judy and Helena are going to post the times as well, so that we'll have those writing sessions again this month.
Danielle is a wonderful resource. Don't hesitate to ask her anything.
She's a wonderful resource. That was probably my favorite part of the whole thing, was getting to know Nancy.
It's been great.
Yeah.
It really has been great. Yeah, Tommy.
Do you, in writing, do you, this goes to either of you, do you find that your characters are disciplined and they do what you wish them to do, or do they seem to have minds of their own and goes off on a whole other tack that you did not expect?
How about you?
Mine definitely had a mind of their own. In the original one, I had two characters, Sean and Olivia, and Sean was nothing like I imagined him in the beginning. He changed a lot as I wrote. Olivia stayed pretty much disciplined in my head, you know, of what I expected. With this current project, I'm not sure if I kind of came up with the characters and then gave them the plot. So they've behaved so far, but I'm also not that far into it that they might start misbehaving soon. But you do find as you're writing that they become almost kind of real, and like Nancy said, you hear the voice in your head and you keep writing and they start to do different things than you would expect them to.
I did start a novel once about 6 or 7 years ago, and the characters totally hijacked the novel, and I had to stop. I still have it, it's quite thick. And I think because there were too many characters that they just took it away from me, and I felt very helpless. I don't think I'll ever finish that.
I think that's a good point too, for something that if we're doing this in a month and we're focusing on a 50,000 word book. Technically in a publishing world, that's more of a novella. A book that is published is generally 80 to 100,000 words or 120,000 words. And who knows how big Game of Thrones and those books are. I mean, those things are huge. But when you're working on something in this size and only doing it a month, you really want to focus on two people and have two main characters and have a couple of secondaries that are there for them to play off of. But you really want to focus on two main characters. And that's basically what both of us did.
Yeah, I quite agree with that.
It becomes unmanageable after a while if you're trying to deal with all these different people having different plots and things to do.
I don't know how Rowling ever kept all of those Harry Potter characters. Just it's incredible. Did you have another question?
Yes, I was just going to make a comment. I was reading a story recently, and I discovered that the author had placed the only thing I can call it really is like a movie trailer on YouTube, and using I think I didn't have any spoken words. It basically was text, images, and music on the for the little novella. And I thought that was quite an interesting way of promoting it.
You'll see, especially with a lot of the social media out now, that a lot of publishing companies are doing that. They're calling them trailers. And when a book is getting ready to come out, and Dennis Lehane has a book that's coming out soon, I think. And did it just come out? And I was on the T the other day, and I saw New York Times had a big full-page ad on the back of one of the sections promoting that, and I'm sure there's a trailer to go along with that as well. So it's a really neat way for people to see your book kind of in action.
I just wanted to ask if both of you always wanted to write when you were growing up, or when did you start get a desire to write? The only thing I'm ever going to write, if I ever get through
You
it,
will,
is a memoir. Nancy started a memoir group, and there are a group of us in it. And some people are just having a ball, and I think it's work, and I'm forcing myself to do things. I don't know when. I'm at age 14 now in my memoir, so you know I've got a long way to go.
What was your question?
My question
Oh, did it?
was, you know, because I just admire people that I just think it takes such a discipline, or whether it's just whether you're born a writer. I don't know, because I read so much about writers people who say they just want to write, and they get up every day and they write, and I think, wow, that's what you like to do.
Me too. Yeah, I used to.
So I think you're just born a writer.
It's a talent, isn't it? A talent, really.
I would like to think it is.
I think so.
We
arguable.
appreciate you calling us talented.
It's arguable, but it rewards me when I can write a sentence, and I remodel, I edit, I change. I like to do that. I can take a sentence and work on it for a long time. I enjoy that process, not just getting it down. I wanted to be.
You're usually very happy with when it's published and all that, aren't you? You feel satisfaction, don't you?
There is some satisfaction. I used to not want to read my work when it was published. Years ago in magazines, I wouldn't, by the time it was printed, I could not look at it. I just didn't want to look at it. I think it's something like an artist, a watercolorist, who maybe paints the picture and then has it framed and the glass is there and you can't get in there and do anything else to it. So yeah, when I read something that is printed or published that I've read, I usually see things that I would like to get in there. So there's a lot of satisfaction in it. The joy is in making new, in starting a new project, getting to know new characters and a new plot. I don't know how you feel about that, but that's the way I feel.
Yeah, definitely. I like to get to know new people and try and create new things, new projects. And I've always been a writer. I wrote as a kid, and I did all the stuff in high school, the creative writing class with Mr. Pushkar and the Deliberator and all that stuff. So I mean, I was always writing, and I actually am a journalist by trade. And for me, I almost never reread anything. I can write fast and throw something online, and it's fine the first round, and I'm done. So I actually don't like reworking the sentence either. I have other people help me with that. Nancy's been nice enough to help me, and my friend Becca, who's here, has also helped me. So they kind of help me with that process. I'm really much more of an ideas, and I throw everything out there and I write it once and I feel like, well, it's good to go. It's all set.
Yeah, but when you're doing the kind of work you do for every day, you don't have the luxury of reworking and reworking. So it's a different thing.
Yeah. I think that travels over into my creative writing as well. You know, you're used to writing like that so quickly on demand all day that you do that with your own creative writing as well. So it's a little bit of a hindrance there.
Was your book, did you rewrite it before the end of this month or last year? Was it
No, I didn't really rewrite it. I wrote it, and that was basically it. Having said that I like to rework things, I don't think I did. Sentences I do. Just, sentences I will rework. But
so it was a finished product at the end of the month?
Well, no. I took another month or so, and I didn't really add anything, but I change things and refine, sort of put sandpaper to it, that sort of thing. But yeah, you really do need to spend some time revising.
And they say that too, when you sign up for NaNoWriMo and you talk to anyone who's taken part in it, it's always take the first month, write everything, get it all out there, and then take a couple weeks in December off, celebrate those holidays. And then in January, get back to it, and then start, like Nancy said, refining it and fixing up the project. And almost everyone who's taken part in NaNoWriMo and people who've been published from NaNoWriMo, like Water for Elephants, I think, is in NaNoWriMo.
Yeah, that was supposedly in it.
But she didn't do that in a month. She did 50,000 words in a month and then built on that later.
It's probably longer than 50,000 words, too.
Oh yeah, I think it is.
Did you have a question?
Yes.
For Mark? Yes?
Yes. If you were, well, you may do it again, do you suggest picking your genre or just writing the story you have and, you know, seeing if it fits in, or seeing what your story is and seeing if you can manipulate it a little?
It kind of depends on what your goal is. When I did NaNoWriMo, my goal was to be published. So that's why I picked a genre. I wanted to be able to pinpoint something that I could market to an agent or a publishing company. So if that's your goal, I would say go with it. But if that's not your goal and you're just writing for yourself and you want to just get the feel of writing, I would go with the story that's in you. Yeah.
I think that's a good answer. I didn't think about genres. I just got out of bed one morning and said, I got to do this.
Yes.
So, do you think of yourself now as a romance writer, and does that surprise you? You know, there you were thinking, I could do a better job than these other people do.
I have a lot more respect for romance writers than I think any of us have started out with. And you know, it's funny, Harlequin has an image of being the supermarket bodice ripper book and that's it. And there's so much more to them when you really start to research them as a publishing company. And when I've looked into books that they've published, and I've looked at some of the higher end things, and I look at how they're run as a company, and I see how much work goes into it, I am surprised to be able to say that, oh, well, yeah, this is what I'm doing now, and I have a lot more respect for it. And I think of myself more as I'm a news editor by day and a novelist at night right now, is kind of how I'm thinking of it.
Okay, so
Danielle, for
Yes.
romance, is there a kind of formula that you follow?
Yeah, that's where this book really came into play. Was this book outlines the formula and kind of it'll tell you all exactly. There's certain points that need to be put in, and not so much formula in that it'll be like, you know, oh, by this chapter something, you know, dangerous has to happen if it's a suspense, and you know, but it does have certain characteristics, and that's where that book came in. And that's why I say the first one is good, but needs to be reworked, and it needs to be formatted to have those points in it. Pink Diamonds has those points because I knew that going into it.
that said, you had a very strong plot in the first one. It followed, you know, it built, the suspense built, and I thought it was tightly written. I'm surprised that you are.
Only she was my agent.
Maybe you should self-publish the first one.
I might. I'm gonna go ahead and see what happens with the second one, and then we'll bring that first one back up. Maybe my first one becomes what I work on in November again.
That surprises me that there's an actual format that you're supposed to follow.
Yeah, there's a, you know, and it's almost the same as any novel. I mean, you know, you want to have the, but there's actually, not standards, but I guess guidelines for a hero and a heroine for a romance novel, and things like, you know, there's actually many different imprints, and that's where I was saying I have a lot more respect for Harlequin now, because there's about 20 different imprints now. I have guidelines, and in my guideline, they can swear, and some you can't. And there's certain guidelines you have to follow, and there's certain language you have to use if you want to be published in that one guideline. So that's where there's a lot more to it than you think, and that's where the first one needs to be tweaked a little bit to fit those certain guidelines and make sure the language is okay for certain imprints.
Were you specifically writing for that market when you started the first one? You were? Okay.
I just didn't do my research the first time. Yeah, I've learned a lot in the last year.
Yeah, well, you do. I guess I wasn't aware that that was your specific goal.
That's interesting. I've learned a lot tonight.
I'm glad to hear that.
I'm just so surprised that there's so much, you know, to it. I thought you just got this idea and you just went with it. You didn't have to follow any rules, or
Marilyn, yeah.
What's the real purpose behind writing a book in 30 days, 50,000 words? What is that purpose?
A lot of it is just to get people off their ass and doing it. So many of us say we're going to write a novel and that we're going to do it, and you don't do it. But if you have a deadline and you say November 30th, this book has to be done, you will do it. And I think it worked for me because I'm a deadline writer for Patch and for the newspaper before that. So I needed a deadline. I needed to say, okay, this is how many words, and it's going to be done November 30th. And that's kind of the format for everyone, just to get people to finally do it.
Do you guys remember when I said, do you want to know what the greatest writing tool is? Do you remember? And I said, stand up, put your hands here. You really have to just, if you want to write, you have to sit down and write. And however long it takes. And so if you've taken this challenge, and really, Marilyn, I think it's a challenge. And some people don't want to take a challenge, but it's like, I dare you. So then if you say, I want to take that dare, then you've got to put your backside down on the chair and for 30 days pretty much keep it there.
That doesn't give you much time though, 30 days, you know, to write.
Yeah, I know, but thank goodness it's only 30 days. Look, if somebody said, you know, 365 days you're going to have to do this, who would do it? No, you know, 30 days.
That's impossible.
Well, obviously you're not going to take the challenge. We've got one person who sort of put her hand up, and this is great. We know where she lives. Karen. Anybody else?
So did you use the same?
Tom. Oh, Tommy's going to too. That's two.
I was just going to say, so did you use Cheshire Press again? Or
I always work with Dick. He was my partner. I usually print under my own name, which I change. And I put this as Foursquare Books. But
so when you say you self-publish, just for my clarification, I mean you do the whole manuscript.
Yeah.
And you ship it to someone, and they actually.
We ship it to a printer. I work with Dick, but if somebody's going to do a book with Cheshire Press, I'm the one who ends up designing it, and so then we send it out to an online, print-on-demand printer. The benefits of that are you can print as many as you want. You don't have to store a lot of unused books, because there's really nothing more discouraging than to print 5,000 copies of a book, because that's the way you could get the price down cheap enough per copy. And then you've got these boxes. Oh, that's so depressing. So, you know, you print as many as you want, and then you...
As many friends as you have?
Yeah, essentially. You know, we really did very well with Brothers of War, though. I forget, a couple thousand books.
And they keep getting ordered every month, yeah, as you know.
Yeah, they do. That's been very...
It just keeps coming, and not a lot, but it's just been great.
Yeah, it has been. So that's been great. So that's how we do it. That's print on demand. Time is not on my side, Jean. So I want to just, you know, get the book out the door, get on to something else.
How does it work on Amazon then?
On Amazon, I didn't have this book on Amazon, but I have a book that I published in 2004, Bald as a Bean, and that did well on Amazon. But it is not a novel, and it was easily researchable for people who were looking for an answer to that problem, the problem of alopecia, and so it did sell well. However, Amazon takes 55% of the book on Amazon, but I can't afford to have that presence on Amazon. I left it there for, you know, 6-8 years. It was fine.
Are the ebooks more affordable?
Well, you can pay whatever price you want on an ebook, but I'm not out any cent. It's on Amazon. if it, you know, if somebody buys it, that's fine. It just downloads it. I don't have to. I don't have any hardcover. So, you know, there's a remarkable book, and it's excellent. It's called Bad Beaver Farm Tales. It's an ebook. It's on for 99 cents. I said to myself, I can afford 99 cents. It's a fantastic book. But, you know, for 99 cents, she figures she's selling a lot. I heard her interviewed on NPR, and she's excellent and an excellent writer. You know, she's making a lot of money.
Yeah.
99 cents. You've got a good story to tell.
You brought up something about a book from a publisher that said you should, in a novel, you should have certain points. Is it difficult after you've written it to get those points in there? And second part of that, each publisher should have probably a different cookbook, you want to call it cookbook, so that, you know, whatever appeals to one publisher, or like readers too, wouldn't appeal to the next one. So each house probably has their own system. How is it difficult, or do you have the, when you write, do you have those points in mind? You do, okay.
I think more in genre, and that's where Nancy and I differed a little bit for this, was I really think in a genre form. And so I'll try and put something that fits the genre, and then it is a little bit easier to get those points for the publishing house. That's where editors will come in handy, and for me, I've had just my friends doing it, and but they're great editors because they're readers. So they can, they've been able to find things, be like, you know, this is something that should happen here, and so can you put that in? And it is a little bit easier to edit when you think in forms of genre. I think for a professional writer, that's where the agent comes into play. You know, the agents will know the publishing houses and will be able to work with you and edit so that you're matching those publishing houses. And that's why I went the agent route the first time. But this second time, I'm going through and I'm doing the research myself, so I'm kind of acting like my own agent this time.
Judy?
I think it's fascinating. Good to have you here writing next month.
Yes.
And I hope other people come and join you.
I hope so too.
And we'd love to buy copies. So we can circulate them.
So Nancy's book.
I have enough just writing my name.
Nancy's book is available over here if you're interested.
That nice Mr. Doyle.
Yes,
So
and I have my business cards here if you're interested in voting for Pink Diamonds and helping me to maybe get that publishing contract, or if you just want to check out my blog and see the writing process, because I am blogging the writing process, so it might help inspire some other people as they write as well.
take
so
these
feel free
cards.
to take them.
Don't take here. Vote.
I'm good at marketing online. She's better in person.
Here we go.
I've already voted.
You can vote every
You have
day.
to vote every day, yeah.
Okay.
So I'll go back.
Oh,
I voted for 3 days already.
Thank you. So thank you very much for coming. We appreciate it.
I'm ready to vote.
We'll be here for a little while if you want to ask questions.
All right.
Thank you.